Many years ago, in the quiet town of Bala, lived a young medical doctor named Dell, a man whose presence alone felt like a blessing. To everyone who knew him, he wasn't just a doctor, he was the heartbeat of the town. People often said his hands carried healing and his soul carried a gentleness rare in the world. He worked long, grueling hours at Bella General Hospital, treating the rich and the poor with the same unwavering compassion. To Dell, every life held equal worth. When a struggling villager came to him with trembling hands and fear in their voice, he would simply smile and say, "Don't worry about money. Life is already heavy enough. I'll treat you for free." Those words became a promise, and soon the poorest people in Bala adored him the way children adore the sunrise. Ironically, while Dell rejected money from those who had none, wealth still found him. The elites admired his sincerity so deeply that they showered him with gifts: cars, land, money, exquisite rare ornaments. Dell accepted these with polite reluctance, storing them away like things he never truly needed. Without ever chasing luxury, he became one of Bella's most prosperous men. Naturally, such goodness drew attention. Many women admired him, but Dell was untouched by romance. His life revolved around the hospital, patients, night shifts, and emergency calls. Even when people teased him for being too focused, he only laughed it off. Love, he believed, would come when it was meant to, and until then, he remained completely devoted to his work. All of that changed the day he met Lara. Lara had just completed her youth service and secured a job as a cashier at Bala Community Bank. She was fresh, bright, hopeful, the kind of woman whose presence softened the air around her. One morning, Dell walked into the bank with a simple purpose: to make a deposit. Lara attended to him, unaware that her life was about to shift forever. As Dell approached the counter, something unexpected happened. People market, women, teachers, businessmen paused their transactions just to greet him. They shook his hands, blessed him, thanked him. Some whispered gratitude for his free treatments. Others praised him for saving their children or healing their aging parents. Lara stood there quietly observing as admiration poured toward Dell like a river. With every word she heard, her curiosity blossomed. She didn't just see a respected doctor. She saw a man with a heart carved from genuine kindness, and besides his goodness, Dell was breathtaking. Tall and broad, with smooth dark skin that reflected the warm bank lights, and a voice deep enough to calm storms. Lara found herself staring a moment longer than she intended. When Dell finally finished greeting everyone and returned to her counter, he apologized for the delay. That was when their eyes truly met. And something subtle but powerful shifted in both of them. Dell, who barely spoke more than necessary to women, lingered this time. "My name is Dr. Dell," he said gently, "but please call me Dell. I come here often." "I don't think I've seen you before." Lara's cheeks warmed. "I'm Lara. I started here last week." Their chemistry was so immediate that even the bank manager, Mrs. Adoon, stepped out of her office with a teasing smile. "Dr. Dell," she said, crossing her arms playfully, "I've never seen you talk to any woman like this. Lara, you should feel lucky. Every lady in Bela has tried her charm on him. He doesn't give anyone the time of day." Lara's eyes widened in surprise. She had assumed a man like Dell would be long taken, but this revelation sparked a gentle, thrilling hope inside her. Before leaving the bank, Dell gathered every bit of courage he didn't know he had. "Would you have dinner with me?" he asked. Lara's heart raced, but she smiled calmly. Yes, I'd love to. The moment work ended that day, Lara hurried home to prepare. When she reached the restaurant, Dell was already waiting, seated at a table decorated with flowers and candlelight, elegant but not extravagant, thoughtful, intentional. Lara felt her breath catch. Over dinner, they shared stories of childhood mischief, difficult school days, and future dreams. They laughed like old friends and connected like two souls who had met in a past life. By the time the night softened into silence, Dell looked into her eyes with a sincerity that made her chest flutter. Lara, he said, gently but boldly, I want you to be my girlfriend. She chuckled shyly. You're bold, asking on the first date. He smiled. Fortune favors the bold. And that night, Lara said yes. Their relationship grew quickly, beautifully. One evening, while sharing dreams about marriage and family, Lara nervously revealed something she had kept secret. I'm a virgin, she whispered. I want to stay that way until marriage. She feared he might be disappointed, but Dell froze, then whispered back, You're a virgin, so am I. I've kept myself too. Relief washed over them like warm rain. For the first time in his life, Dell felt he had found the one person meant only for him. They decided to marry in 6 months. Lara grew at her bank job, earning a promotion. Dell continued to excel at the hospital. Their families clicked instantly. Their love deepened, and everything seemed set for a perfect future. Until the day Lara went to the market to buy her wedding gown. There, she ran into Aide, her university ex, the first man she had ever dated. He had once pressured her to sleep with him, and when she refused, he had abandoned her. Seeing her again stirred something dark inside him. When she mentioned she was getting married soon, his jealousy simmered. He lied, saying his sister had beautiful wedding gowns she could try. Innocently and eager to finish her shopping quickly, Lara followed him home. The moment she stepped inside, he locked the door. His friendly expression twisted into something monstrous. Before Lara could react, he grabbed her. She fought, screamed, begged, but Aide was stronger. He overpowered her, violating her in the most devastating way. When he finished, he shoved her outside and mocked her, laughing as she stumbled away. Broken, shaken, and covered in bruises, Lara went straight to Dell's house. When he opened the door and saw her state, his heart shattered. Between sobs, she told him everything. Dell felt his world crack open. Shock twisted into rage. Rage twisted into despair. But when Lara refused to take him to Aide's house, terrified Dell might kill him, something poisoned his thoughts. Why won't you let me confront him? He demanded. Were you really violated? Why were you alone in his house? Each question stabbed Lara like a blade. She cried, pleading for him to believe her. But Dell's mind, clouded with grief and betrayal, hardened, and he made the worst mistake of his life. I can't marry you anymore, he said, his voice icy. The wedding is off. Lara collapsed to her knees, sobbing, begging him not to end everything over something she never chose. But Dell turned away, drowning in his pain. Days later, overwhelmed by guilt, confusion, and heartbreak, Dell packed his bags and left Bala entirely. He moved to Ikit village, determined to rebuild his life from the ground up. In Ikit, he opened a small clinic, worked tirelessly, treated patients with his old compassion, and soon became respected again. But inside him, something had fractured. Something dark had planted roots. He felt robbed, cheated by fate. The purity he had protected for years felt stolen. and in his brokenness, his mind twisted that pain into a poisonous belief. One afternoon, a 19-year-old girl came to his clinic. Her height, her soft voice, her gentle demeanor, she reminded him painfully of Lara. Something snapped inside him. He locked the door and asked quietly, "Are you a virgin?" When she said yes, he forced himself on her, then threatened her into silence. This became the beginning of a horrifying pattern. Every virgin girl who entered Dell's clinic met the same fate. He convinced himself he was reclaiming what life had taken from him, but in truth, he had become the monster he once vowed to fight against. The hall remained silent long after the recording ended. The villagers stared at Dell as if seeing him for the very first time, not as their beloved doctor, not as the gentle healer, but as a predator who had hidden behind kindness. Dell looked around, blinking rapidly as if the world had suddenly betrayed him. Talu lied, he insisted, voice trembling. All of them are lying. I saved your children. I treated your parents for free. Why would I? But no one moved. No one spoke. No one believed him anymore. The king finally rose from his seat, his voice heavy with a sorrow far deeper than anger. Dell, he said, you were a gift to this village. We trusted you with our daughters, our sisters, our children, yet you used that trust to destroy lives. You have confessed with your own tongue. There is nothing left to say. The guards stepped forward. Dell tried to run. He stumbled, desperation making him clumsy. People parted like the sea, watching silently as the man they once praised was dragged outside the palace. Children peered from behind their mothers. Elders bowed their heads in shame. Parents held their daughters a little closer. No one could understand how a man once so good had become something so cruel. Dell was imprisoned immediately, awaiting trial before the Council of Elders. For the first time in his life, he was alone, no patience, no admirers, no gratitude, no smiles, just four walls, darkness, and the echo of his own choices. Days passed, then weeks. In the silence of his cell, Dell replayed everything the moment Lara came to him bruised. The moment he doubted her, the moment he walked away instead of holding her tighter. Every cruel act afterward stabbed him like thorns. He realized the monster he had become wasn't born from Lara's tragedy. It was born from his own weakness, his inability to carry pain without spreading it. One night, when rain hammered against the prison roof, Dell whispered her name into the darkness, ... Lara. Far away, in Bala, Lara had rebuilt her life slowly, painfully. After Dell abandoned her, she had spiraled through nights of grief and days of numbness. She left her job, changed her home, and grew quieter than she had ever been. But she survived. She healed. Pain did not break her, reshaped her. She volunteered at a shelter for assaulted women, helping young girls find their voice again. Her gentleness became strength, her trauma became wisdom, and her heart, though scarred, grew softer, not colder. People began to call her Sister Lara, the woman who turned her suffering into light for others. One afternoon, she received a message from a kite, a letter. The handwriting was familiar, painfully familiar. She held it for hours before opening it. My Lara, it began. I know I no longer have the right to call you that. I know I lost that right the day I doubted you, but I need you to hear me once in this lifetime. I became something I don't recognize, not because of what happened to you, but because I let pain twist me. I should have protected you. Instead, I destroyed myself and others. I am guilty of doubting you, of walking away, of becoming the very darkness I once fought against. I will spend the rest of my life paying for it. I don't ask for forgiveness. I only ask that, when you think of me, you remember the man I was before I let grief swallow me. If there is one thing left of me that is still true, it is this. I loved you, I love you still, and I am sorry, Lara. More sorry than these words can ever hold. Dell. The paper trembled in her hands. Tears fell, not the tears of heartbreak, but of closure. She whispered into the empty room. Goodbye, Dell. Back in thy cage. Dell's trial concluded swiftly. The evidence was undeniable. The council sentenced him to life imprisonment with no chance of release. The villagers did not celebrate, they mourned. They mourned the doctor they had once admired, the man he could have been, and the darkness he chose instead. Years passed. In prison, Dell changed again. This time not into a monster, but into a shadow of the man he once was. He spent his days treating fellow inmates with whatever basic medical supplies the prison provided. He saved lives again, but this time with no praise, no applause, no gratitude, just duty. Some said he was trying to redeem himself. Others said he was trying to quiet the ghosts inside him. No one really knew. But Dell earned a new nickname among the prisoners, the Broken Healer. He never asked for forgiveness again. He never wrote another letter. He accepted his fate quietly, carrying his guilt like a weight he deserved. One rainy evening, many years later, he collapsed in the prison yard. The guards rushed to him, but Dell knew the end had come. With trembling lips, he murmured one final word. Lara, and he took his last breath. He was buried behind the prison walls, without ceremony, without a crowd. Only a few guards stood there, silently acknowledging the complicated truth. A man who had once saved countless lives had destroyed just as many, including his own. Back in Bala, Lara continued her work, helping young women rebuild shattered confidence, teaching them that pain does not define them, that survival itself is a form of victory. Sometimes, when she passed the old hospital where she once waited for Dell, she paused and whispered a small prayer, not for him to return, but for his soul to find peace. And in that way, both their stories ended, one in darkness, one in light, but together, there remained a lesson, a reminder that even the brightest hearts can break, and even broken hearts can rise again.